All right. Well, thank you all for your time this morning. Again, I'm Brandon. I'm with a company called Audio Gear, who's the Southern California rep for Shure. I'm pretty sure that everyone's aware of Shure products, and the MXA line has been the most popular and dominant thing that we've seen in classrooms sort of across the board, corporate spaces. So we chose to sort of point to a newer line of product that we've been using much more in this hybrid world of at home and in office. And it's for a couple of reasons. It's the form factor that's available. They're smaller, easier to deploy, so you can kind of take them with you if you're doing a couple days here and a couple days there. And they're also priced much more favorably than the larger, more commercial ended products, so that you could maybe buy two of them to keep one at home and one in the office instead of having to have only one commercial level system available. So let's see here. Ecosystem is what the STEM universe is about. And just a quick explanation of what they're thinking ecosystem is the idea is that you're going to take a whole bunch of building blocks and be able to assemble them together into a system that works for you. It's going to be different parts and different pieces depending on what your needs are. And we're going to walk through the 5 or so products that can make this possible. As you look at this kind of graphic that's floating around, you'll see a couple of microphones that are appearing and disappearing on the wall, on the table, and the ceiling. And it's just kind of showing you some options of these building blocks so that you could sort of select what's best for your space. You'll notice that even though this is a conference room that we're looking at, what's probably an office building somewhere, the components themselves are really modular. And with the exception of the ceiling, which I've yet to hear somebody install in their home, we've definitely put in homes and in smaller huddle spaces and home offices, things like that, the rest of these products. The idea here is to keep things really simple. You would call up Lightworks, and Lightworks would be able to walk you through the process of finding the right equipment for the size room that you're in and for the type of uses that you're going to be using it for. They would be able to use the software that's baked into the product to create a design, help you get the installation done, do the assignment of the products within the space. And then much like a home theater system, if you're familiar with those at all, it's going to do a room adapt. It's going to actually send out some pings and beeps and bops into the room to allow the room to be, or to allow the microphone setting to be customized to the room. So when you're in an office building with glass walls and an elevator next door, there's going to be different acoustical properties than when you're sitting at a home office like I am today. So you're going to want to be able to actually make the equipment the maximum it can be to be most efficient as possible by allowing it an opportunity to hear the room, come back to it, and make the appropriate changes. After it's made those changes, it's going to do a diagnostic check where it's going to take a look at the space and try to determine how well is it actually covering the areas that you've drawn out. So in the little picture you see there, that's a classroom example with about 9 ceiling microphones that have been deployed across a large space. And then you get the management of it on the back end, which if you're at home and you're using a single unit, you're probably not going to need to be concerning yourself with management. But if you are trying to use the same platform, both at work and at home, either AV or IT management may want to have some hands-on understanding of what's being used and when. And so there is a full management suite that's in there. Quick diagram of kind of showing you one of the ways that it works, but in its simplest answer, it's a USB peripheral. It's a USB 2.0 peripheral that uses universal drivers. You don't need to put anything special on your computer, whether it's a Mac, a PC, a Linux, a UC engine, anything that you're working with. As long as it can accept a 2.0 USB, you're going to be ready to go. In the diagram that we're looking at, this is kind of what you would see maybe in a commercial space or in your office. Wireless keyboard and mouse to be able to communicate with your mini PC, which is ultimately giving you your video to the monitor where you're watching presentations like today. From there, you're connected to a hub, which is the first of the STEM products kind of on the list. All of these devices are receiving their power from a PoE plus switch. So no need to run independent high voltage power to anything, no need to have wall warts or DC inverter things kind of all over the place. All the power is going to be coming over the network switch, which is also conveniently going to be doing the audio traffic. There are speakers so that you can hear the return audio rather than having to listen to the monitor speakers. This diagram's got a couple of table microphones and a wall. Both the table and wall actually have speakers and mics built into them. And we'll kind of dig into that a little bit further down the road. But this is to show you that there can be several pieces involved in one space, and they're all going to hit the switch, and that switch is then going to hit the hub. And the hub is going to do all of the intelligent decision making of what microphone should be used and when, which speaker should be used and when, and make that all very simple as a USB handshake to your codec, whether it's Teams, BlueJeans, Zoom, you name it, anything that would use a normal USB 2.0. This is an example of how it would appear in your system. So this is, we're probably all familiar with these now. This is the Zoom selection window as to choose what you're going to actually speak through. So in this case, it would be a STEM table where you just select it and you're done. You walk away, and that is what the installation entails. The mic itself will have adapted itself to the space and will be ready to go. Shure, right, almost 100-year-old company this year. They're getting up there. They acquired STEM about 2 years ago. STEM was a startup company out of Southern California, Irvine in particular, and they have a concept. Instead of having customer service, they've got a concept called customer happiness. And at first you kind of giggle because you're like, it sounds a little goofy, but the reality is they take that very serious, and they are not done providing whatever service is required until you as the customer are happy. And that could be helping with everything from the front end design to validating something that Lightworks may have put together for you, to solving problems, to having a piece of equipment that may not be working as it's supposed to and getting it diagnosed and swapped out. The STEM side of things within Shure is a very small, nimble group of people, as opposed to the larger entity that is Shure, which is still great for all things customer service, as they've been for nearly 100 years, but it is a huge organization, multinational organization, and STEM is really a startup still in its bones, and has gotten a lot of funding and a lot of exposure by being acquired by Shure, but still operates sort of as that much smaller, more nimble mom and pop environment. Plays nice with others. These things would be pretty useless if they couldn't talk to all the modern things that we deal with. So Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, BlueJeans, we can communicate with Aver. There's Dante connectability. So if you had to plug these into larger systems, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more down the road here. But as you get into larger systems, you're going to start to migrate into the more standard Shure package of things that are already available under the MXA umbrella. These are about being effortless and simple, and they are put at price points to sort of keep it under that really complex room space concept. Good partnership with Hudley and TrueConf. So these devices can all plug in directly and just work immediately. Another big partner is going to be ClickShare. So you could ClickShare and Immersive are very popular out there in the office space. I'm not sure how much they're needed in the home space just yet, because it's just you on one screen or a couple. But these will connect natively to these systems. They will recognize one another and just be able to go. Their goal is to make things very plug and play, so that you don't need an IT department when you're trying to use these devices in your home. In our day and age of electronics being very hard to get a hold of right now, the great news about STEM products is every single thing we're going to talk about today is in stock and in abundance. When Shure acquired STEM, they did a massive load-in of product just prior to the pandemic. And so as the pandemic has rolled through, and we've had a series of challenges of finding A to D converters and semiconductors and sort of all the different variety of bits and pieces that we need to put together these modern electronics. The good news is Shure has been sitting on a pile of STEM equipment. It has been flowing through, and it is out in the world, and they have been updating it, and Shure engineers have been working with it. So it's not just something that's been sitting there that they're now trying to use instead of using Shure product. It's as we're discussing, the needs have changed. Not everything is a commercial, large-scale boardroom environment anymore. And it just so happens that these smaller, more nimble products can slide right into what the need is today. So if any of these things make sense to you, or if there's any of these that you wanted to see a demo of, contact Lightworks representative that you work with, and they will get in touch with us, and it's in stock. And coming from Southern California, for most of the people that Lightworks is dealing with, you're talking about a day's shipment. For folks across the country, of course, it could be overnight, but it could also be something that goes just in a couple of days. So very important to note that it's in stock. Who needs this, right? We kind of already touched that, but we'll go through it again, right? The corporate standard room, you can kind of see in this picture, there's a wall below the display, there's a ceiling up overhead, and there's a table microphone down in the center there, along with a control screen. We can see that there is looks like an iPad on its side that we'll get to there that allows you to control the system, which is going to be volume and mute. And then there's one really unique thing that for such a simple system to have VoIP control is really unique. You have the ability to take this and plug it in and just use it across your normal VoIP dialer. Huddle rooms, small spaces where BYOD could definitely be the flavor. Somebody comes in with a laptop and they just need to run the call. They just take the USB right out of this speaker device and plug it right into their computer, and they're good to go. The table microphone is going to act as both a microphone and as a loudspeaker. So you no longer have a nice, big sounding voice going to the far side, and the far side comes back puny through your laptop. It's going to come back through a series of speakers that are inside of that, pointed downward at the table, which allows it to use the table as a boundary and give it a nice, full, robust sound that fills the room. Collaboration lounge, right? This is kind of hip. This is more like a podcasting style studio that you're looking at, but same idea, furniture and sitting comfortably and not necessarily being at a table. It's tightly packed against one another, whether it's because of social distancing or just because we got used to sitting on our couches at home while working, and now we want a couch at the office. You'll see up center here is a ceiling microphone that allows participants to sit there, and when they're not on air using the individual Shure mics that you see kind of scattered around there, they're able to just have normal conversation and be picked up and have their conference meetings in the same space. Healthcare, again, looking very like a typical office here. We've got a ceiling overhead. There's an AVR camera above those dual displays. And then we've got a bar that's under it that's going to cover that entire room. So between the ceiling and the bar, it's going to be able to cover the front third of the table and the back half or back 2/3 of the table. And the hub that you can't see because it's probably behind the display there is making all of the decisions. It's doing all of the processing, all of the DSP. There's no need for any extra boxes to do echo cancellation or to do EQing. It's all being done in real time inside of that hub before being handed to the computer. You'll see solutions must work with all UC platforms, right? That's soft codec platforms. That's also UC engines. There's a Crestron partnership that is very strong between Shure and therefore STEM and Crestron. So these things can plug right in and function. Education, right? That's going to be more of that classroom style, and you'll see through these photos as I kind of keep plugging through a lot of these walls, because these walls act as both loudspeakers and microphones. They're array microphones that have got 8 sections that, as you move across a room, it will turn the microphone on and off as appropriate as you move from left to right. They can go above the display, below the display, or in this case, the whiteboard. You could put 4 or 5 of these in a room. You could put one on each wall of the four walls and point it inward and cover the entire classroom. And again, when the professor is speaking, the hub will make the selection of the microphone that is hearing the professor best. And when the student asks their question, same thing. It'll turn on the microphone that is supporting that student's voice best. Mobile carts have become very popular as we are spacing out our office needs, and as you're sitting down in what used to be a cube farm, there may only be 5 or 6 desks where there used to be 12. And so as people have been pushed out into all of these sort of more open, spacier environments, the ability to bring displays into spaces that were not traditionally conference rooms has become quite the request. So this is just a quick example of a STEM wall being mounted under a display. And you can see there's a little tiny Hudley camera that's in there. The wall has all of the bracketing requirements and the holes on the back of it to be able to support several different cameras. They're in a partnership currently with Hudley, so you can order it with a Hudley. You can order any Shure product with a Hudley that can connect onto the top of it there. But the important bit there is that there is a hole pattern that's required so that you're not having to Velcro or come up with some kludgy solution. It's ready to go on a commercial level so that when you're rolling that cart around, your camera doesn't move or fall. Higher ed, Same thing as classroom, except now you see that this bar has moved up above the whiteboard. It doesn't need to be centered in the room. It doesn't need to be perfectly aligned with anything in particular. You can kind of see those blue lights very faintly in there. That's illustrating where it's connecting audio from, or which microphone is actually active. And it's a feature you can turn on and off so that you don't have to sit there and watch a bunch of blue lights going back and forth like Knight Rider. The components, just a kind of a detailed breakdown. Table, again, they're going for simple. So the part numbers are very simple. If the microphone sits on the table, it's called the table. It's a directional microphone array. It's got the speakers that are built in. It's got all the signal processing that you need, and it can be connected either directly with USB to an individual laptop or computer, or it can be connected to the hub via the network if you had several of them going in a single environment. 9 beamforming microphones. So it's not just on or off. It's not just omnidirectional. If you're sitting on the north end of the table having a conversation with someone on the south end of the table, they're going to be turning on and off as required, as opposed to letting the entire room come into the microphone at any given point. There is a small LED ring that you see that's white in the picture there that will light up and show you which microphone is being used at any given point. So that allows you to determine, is it working properly? Or when I speak, is there a reflection coming off of the glass wall in front of me that's actually hitting the microphone rather than my voice? And if that's the case, then we may need to move the microphone 6 inches left or right to get it out of that near field reflection, or we need to pull a curtain or something in front of the glass to eliminate the reflection altogether. On the device, we want to keep it really, really simple. So there's a volume up, a volume down, and a mute. These are again designed for very, very simple operation. This is not for your really fancy executive space where they may have a lot of particular needs. This is for teachers and for people at home and folks that need a very simple way to just bring things up and down as needed, meaning the far side volume, and then of course mute and unmute so that you can have moments of privacy. In diameter, it's 7 by 7.75 inches, so it's like a small bundt cake, about 3 inches tall. And the height is so that the speakers can have a little bit of space to put the energy down into the boundary of the table to make them sound nice and big. And you get to see a little photo there of both the Ethernet connection and the USB connection. The Ethernet connection, again, is providing power and it's providing data to the hub as necessary, or the USB connection is going to be used to go just directly to the computer. If the wall goes on the wall, we call it the wall. Wall 1, again, another directional array. No additional speakers are needed, or you don't need ceiling speakers or other things provided, though you could. You can defeat the speakers in any of these products. So if there already was existing ceiling speakers, or if the room was so large that you needed to have a reinforcement coming, at the back of the room farther away, we can turn off the return audio out of this, any of these products that have speakers in them, and you can use the audio then in your larger scale system, whether it's going to a tuner or it's going to a DSP that's then spreading around the room. You get a lot of choices there. And then the camera mounting adapter is very popular with this particular unit. I will note that the wall needs to be installed horizontally. You're not going to want to put it on the vertical, just the way that the beam array technology works. If you put it on its side, it's actually going to get very narrow in the field that we want it to be very wide, which would be the horizontal. So we'll always keep it on the horizontal with this particular product. 48 inches in length, so it matches most displays. When you're looking at that 50, 54, 52, 55 inch display, it fits nicely under the 65. We have several of them in our office that look great. There's 2 full range speakers that are giving you speech playback, and then they have 2 little micro subwoofers. And that's so when you do have the occasional playback from your laptop, or you're giving a presentation and you've got some video that needs to play back, you've got the ability to actually have that sound more robust than you would through your normal laptop speakers. Great photo here of the back of the device where you see the USB, again, for direct connectivity. And you've got the category for both power and for data. And then you can also see a little Kensington lock hole down there so that you can mount these in areas where you don't need them to walk away or want them to walk away. You do have the ability to lock them down. And the camera mount along with the wall mount. So as far as installation, if you can find a stud, two studs, then you can put this on the wall anywhere. It is relatively easy to get up and operating, and then it's just a matter of how do you want to get cabled to. If this hangs on the ceiling, we call it the ceiling. A directional array microphone. Same concept as the other array microphones you see in the market. This has a couple of bells and whistles that are a little unique and special to that particular product. Built-in signal processing and dual mounting options. So you can either suspend it like a chandelier, which tends to meet more of the aesthetic need. It is a circle. Or you can actually get it up into the ceiling into like a 2x2 tile grid. It ships with a frame that allows you to put it right in the tile grid. Quick examples of showing you the three ways that you could deploy this microphone. There is a narrow beam, a medium beam, and wide beams is how it functions, but then it has this other mode called audio fencing. It's a picture on the right. And quite often now we're seeing rooms where there might be a table in the middle of a large open space, or there could be a huddle desk where everyone gets around for little war meetings. Where there's just open space all around you, noise all around you. There's no place to put the microphone on a wall or a speaker on a wall. You're going to put this ceiling microphone above you, and it's going to take the information that it hears in the center, and it's going to take the information that it hears on the outside, and it's going to subtract what it hears on the outside from what it hears on the inside. So it's going to eliminate outside conversations and outside noise by giving it a subtractive quality of what it hears kind of farther away is going to be deleted from what's actually going down the microphone pipe and then eventually to your codec. This is pretty darn good. You know, we give it a number of somewhere around down 24 dB, which is, so the rest of us, it's a very usable product in those reverberant spaces when you have to sort of cut down a lot of that outside noise. And to my knowledge, this is the only product currently with this type of feature. Quick photo of, again, how you could connect it directly with a USB. Here, kitty attack coming. Or through the network connection. And through the low profile mount that you see here on the ceiling. That would be the 2x2 tile that you can just drop into any grid like you have been doing with the other Shure products. Speaker, if it's a speaker and it makes noise like a speaker, you call it speaker. There's three mounting options. It has a ceiling mount that you can connect to it that put right into drywall or into drop tile ceiling. There's a wall component like you're looking at here in the photo. And then it also has a table stand variation where it's got two little legs, like little tripod stand legs that come out so that you could just sit it on a desk or sit it in the corner of a room and use it as sort of a plug and go type thing. Yeah, there's the three variations, including the little legs. 9 inches, you know, again, this is all powered over PoE+, so no need to have an amplifier or have anything additional going to it. It's going to come right off the network that the other STEM products are plugged into, and it's going to immediately know that it gets Farsight audio or it gets the audio that's coming out of your laptop, but does not put your microphone through it. It knows how to do all of that that normally a DSP would cover. This is all being done within the hub. Control. So control is a little touchscreen that you would put into the system. So if you had these simple rooms that you needed to have the ability to mute and unmute, you needed to have the ability to see a schedule of the space, you needed to have the ability to make a VoIP call. This will allow you to do all of that direct from the touchpad. Now, these are very common in our world. We see the Logitech touches and we see Crestrons and Q-Sys and all sorts of these all over the place. The goal of this is not to compete with those. It is highly fixed in that it is trying to be very simple, and it does what it does without a lot of complication. So this is not going to be a replacement for customizing screens or putting any type of company logos or I just need this extra button. You're stepping out of the simplicity that STEM is trying to maintain, and you're stepping into that higher tier of commercial product that you would get through the normal Shure catalog, and then partnering with one of the DSPs that's available, or control systems that are available. But very, very cool, very responsive, again, PoE+. And the main thing that is fascinating to me about all of this is that the VoIP dialer is embedded. So your room that used to have a Starfish phone, you can replace that Starfish phone and go to a more commercial, microphone and loudspeaker broken out system and do all of the control right off the tabletop there using one of these units. Pretty small. It's got two orientations. You can have it in the upright version, or you can have it kind of down in the sidekick, depending on the lights and where you're sitting and what works best for you. It is also the device that you would use to set up a room. So if you had one of these in the space, you'd be able to deploy the equipment, do the room adapt, make sure that the coverage is well. If you had one of these, you could even design a system on them. And there is a laptop application that allows you to do all of that without the touchscreen. So if you were setting up a room that ultimately was not going to have one of these control interfaces, then you could do all of what you're seeing on this touchscreen inside of an app that would be available on laptop. The hub is sort of the brain if you're using more than one device. It's what's going to bring in all the different microphones and all of the different audio and make the intelligent choices of what to send where. It provides a single channel of audio out, which is coming on that USB. So regardless of how many microphones, which is up to 10 devices, regardless of if it's 2 or 10 devices, it's going to mix it all down to a single output so that your Zoom and Teams can grab it and use it without any issue. Again, super flexible USB, SIP, and terminal block. The terminal block would be used if you needed to break this out and get it into a larger sound system or a presentation space.